Rose here. Well, I guess it's time for my big fat redneckified life, chapter 2. Well, where we left off, I was talking about how my friend Donnell would let me visit, well, her mother would let me visit with them on visiting day on Sunday at Blount County Children's Home. Okay, so that's as far as I made that so far in the Blount County Children's Home. Like I said before in chapter 1, the place had bicycles, it had um, a ball court, it had all kinds of interesting stuff to do. And I guess, aside from the few really, really bad, god awful things that happened, other than that, it was okay. And I guess you kind of learn to live with stuff, you know, to rude staff members, and I was put in there with a bunch of juvenile delinquents, and there was other children that were put in there with juvenile delinquents that were not bad kids to begin with. But, the past is the past, and they did what they done. Probably because they couldn't find a foster home or a bed in another group home. So, that was always a real struggle. And there was times that one of my foster, not my foster, well, yeah, it was my foster care advocate person, the case manager, when she'd try to move me from place to place, sometimes, she'd come unexpectedly and come get me, and I never received a reason why. I wasn't really a terrible kid in the first few group homes and foster homes, but sometimes I would get picked up, and then her not have a place prepared for me, and then I would sit at the DCS office from early morning till late in the afternoon. Luckily, I never had to spend the night. You know, luckily they always found a place for me. But there was times I would sit at that office and not eat for several hours. So this group home, especially the Blount County Children's Home, there were a lot of kids that were in that situation where they couldn't find a bed for them or another foster home for them, so they would end up here. And I guess I would consider that, they would have considered that a therapeutic group home, because of the fact of the matter is that they administered medication and therapy, yeah, whatever, and among other various activities that would have considered them a therapeutic group home. This is the place where originally I was put on some, I would say, pretty strong medication. I don't know how strong Paxil is, but I remember it wasn't long after I was there, and I went to see a psychologist named Dr. David. I don't know her last name. It was David something another. I want to think it was some big long J name, but I couldn't pronounce it. But anyway, I was in her office not even a whole 30 minutes. This is not counting the time sitting in the waiting area, waiting to be seen. And by the time I got out of there, she had prescribed me Paxil and then some other medication. I don't really entirely know what the other medication's name was. All I know is when I took it, I did not feel right. The lights were on, but nobody was home, pretty much. And they would keep changing medications on me too. I never knew what, I mean, for a while I was taking Paxil, but then they were trying other medications out on me and stuff. And I went around a lot of the time in a fog, brain fog. So, but this place was, aside from the good stuff, okay, when I first moved in there, God, this is another rough spot. When I'd first moved in there, I had just been through a sexual assault. I don't want to say his name, and I don't want to talk about him in particular, that incident, because it's not something I really talk about. But I will talk about the incident afterwards. I was sexually assaulted. And then when I moved into that group home, I told him, hey, I've been sexually assaulted. And my period was late. And I was administered a pregnancy test when I first moved in there. And, of course, it came out negative. And of all the petty things, there was a deodorant that I really liked. It was named Teen Spirit. And I'd run out, and I was asking one particular staff member if I could please have some more of the Teen Spirit deodorant. She says, this is petty as hell, okay? She looks at me and says, you're not a teen. I said, yes, I am. She says, no, you're not. You've already had sex. She was referring to the sexual assault. Yeah, nice, right? My heart sank, and I was just like, what the hell? But she told me I could have the Arid Extra Dry, which I was extremely allergic to. Yay. So I had to go around with my underarms itching and red and eat up because she wouldn't give me the correct deodorant because I wasn't a teen in her eyes, that I'd already had sex. So, yeah, that was some petty stuff. And I don't know. It's just, there was just some really odd things there. And maybe the lead person didn't know about some of the things. But I didn't feel comfortable whenever it was shower time and we had shavers, regular razors, like a Bic razor to shave your legs, and they didn't trust us with the Bic razor. And I don't think it was supposed to be males watching us. But I remember on two different occasions that just two different occasions that there were males that come in and watched us shower and watched us shave. And the stalls to the showers were, they were frosted, but they were clear enough you could see enough. And we're sitting there trying to shave and stuff, so I just quit shaving. I quit shaving my underarms. I quit shaving my legs because I did not want somebody watching me shower, let alone being a fella. And this was at the Blount County Children's Home. The place has now since been torn down. There are no children living there. Thank goodness it's been shut down. I don't know why it was shut down, but it was shut down. It's been torn down to rubble. And I actually had a celebration when I found out it was torn down to rubble. I did. Had a nice dinner and everything. I didn't scream and shout it like this is the celebration for the group home being torn down, but I did make it a little event, dinner and everything. And, going from there to, how I got put out of Blount County Children's Home is because the fact of the matter is one day I was sick. Now, I know I just got over strep throat and I'd been sick from that, but, I was sick again. I was throwing up and everything. And I missed the bus. A staff member got plumb irate with me, Mrs. Ogle. Now, usually she was really sweet and really kind. And I the behavior was so uncharacteristic for her usual sweetness. She got irate with me because I missed the bus. And I told her I was sick. Maybe she just didn't believe me. Maybe she thought I was being a butthole. So anyway, that's probably it. We'll explain it away with that. But I told her I was sick, and they were going to drive me to school, and I said I'm sick, and I got mad because she wouldn't let me lay down, and so I grabbed my pocketbook and I started to walk down the road. I was aiming to go to this boy named Jonah's house to use the telephone to call my DCS worker to let her know what was going on. Of course, at that time I thought she gave a flipping shit, but I found out later. No, and I'll explain that one at a little bit later. It'll probably be in this video, but I didn't make it. They had some police pick me up. They brought me back to the group home. They told me to pack my things. So, I was thrown out of there and I was sent to a place called Peninsula Hospital. And that's where most of the children who got kicked out of that group home, that's where most of them ended up. Peninsula Hospital. Or at the time, there was another one named Lakeshore. And it was a mental health asylum. Because I was being unruly and combative. Because I didn't want to go to school sick and throwing up. Chew on that one for a minute. So, anyway, ended up in that place. And they continued with the medications, but they had upped the dosage. And then one day they gave me something they told me was a vitamin. I was already in a brain fog. And this is what they told me was a vitamin. Great big old oval pill. After that, I I can't explain it. Like I said, it was even worse. The lights are on and no one's home, and I was just like, might as well say my eyes was crossed. The other one, that's how I felt. I became quiet and withdrawn, and I felt weird. And they started giving me that vitamin every day for the duration of the time I was there. And for the duration of the time I was there, it was a while. I can't tell you how long I was there, but I know I didn't see the sunlight, like natural sunlight, except for through windows for a long time. We went outside once that I remember there, and the sun hurt my eyes. And the day I got out of the place, and this male caseworker come pick me up, the light was burning my eyes so bad, I put my hand like this, and I tried to look down, and my eyes were burning, and I mean, it felt like somebody poured acid in my eyes. That's how bad the sun was burning my eyes, and how long it had been since I had seen natural sunlight except through a window. But let me talk a little bit more about Peninsula Hospital. I know I touched on it on a video, Paris Hilton is Telling the Truth. And that's kind of what inspired this whole series to begin anyway, for me just to go ahead and speak out. So, I'm speaking out. Peninsula Hospital at the time, and I don't know if they still are the same, but Peninsula Hospital was a shithole. The staff members were absolutely terrible. I remember when I first moved in there, there was a lady, I did not know her name. I hadn't even met the woman yet. And I asked her name, and they said, "Oh, you don't remember her name?" And I'm thinking, I hadn't met the lady yet. They said, "You don't remember?" I was thinking that in my head, but I didn't say it. I didn't have a chance. And they said, "Oh, you don't remember her name?" I said, "No." So, it got everybody in trouble where everybody had to write Miss Sabota's name over and over and over and over and over and over until they were satisfied. And that went on from daylight till dark, just about it, except for when we went to eat or we went to the solarium for our group therapy sessions and group activities and such. But we had to write her name over and over and over and over. By the time when she finally was satisfied, it went on for like a day and a half. Then she told us, "Throw it away." No kidding. And they would play mind games, like little pissy little mind games like that with the patients there whenever I was there. And I mean, and it got to where I was trying to maintain. But one time I was over. See, there's the rooms is made. There's a mirror on this side and a mirror on this side with a little sink that you can wash your hands, brush your teeth, and do your little self-care stuff there. One time, I think it was Miss Sabota thinking, and she had said something smart aleck, and I decided to go like throw up my middle finger, and I was aiming it at the wall, but apparently she's seen me through the other mirror and the other side of the room. She rang the bell, and I was escorted to what they called the special care unit. And, hold on just a second. But the special care unit, they called it the special care unit or the SKU unit, but it pretty much was just a solitary confinement unit. They had to call it something different than solitary confinement. When I was put in there, there was 2 rooms, and this is all I noticed. Okay, but there was 2 rooms. One had a mattress, the other one didn't have one. Didn't have anything else in the room. The windows were all covered up and everything, and I was put in one just for flipping the staff member off. For being so, I mean, she said so. I can't remember what it was she said for the life of me, but I know it was smart aleck, and they constantly would play mind games and, be trippy with you. So I was locked up in this. And the first time I was locked up in the one with the mattress. The second time, I can't remember what I did. I for the life of me, I can't remember what I did. But I remember the bell rang for me again, and that I was given a shot. Now, I don't think that was legal at the time either in the mid-90s, but they did whatever they pretty much wanted to there. And there, I was popped with a shot, and I was taken by my underarms to that other SKU unit room. This is why I know the other one didn't have a mattress. They put me in there, and I was so disoriented that I fell asleep in the floor. And I mentioned this in the other video, Paris Hilton is telling the truth. I remember I was disoriented, so I fell asleep in the floor. No mattress, no nothing, just straight in the floor. And then when I woke up, I don't know how long I'd been there. I don't know how long I'd slept. All I know, by the time that I woke up, that I was really hungry, I was really thirsty, and I really needed to pee. I'm assuming I was in there for a while, because when I went in, I remember it being daylight, and when I come out, it was dark. And I don't remember what time of day I was put in there exactly, but it was still daylight outside. And there was other things that I seen there. There was an 18-year-old girl that was put in our unit. I was 15. Yeah, I was 15. And the other little girl was close to that age that was in there. It was me, Josie, and I want to think the girl's name was Angie or Angela. And she got sick one day. And now listen, at 15, you ain't going to understand everything you see, so I'm just telling you what I saw. Right in front of us both, right in front of me and the roommate, the other roommate, Angie, was held down while somebody pulled her breeches down and forced a suppository up her behind. No privacy, no nothing. And she's screaming and hollering. Her face is like, she screamed to the point her face is purple. And they're sticking a suppository up her behind right in front of us girls. And they pulled her breeches up and they left her lay. And she cried. And cried hysterically for forever. Things I never want to see again in my life. That was absolutely humiliating. Humiliating for her and horrifying to us, because who wants to see that? So anyway, let's leave that subject alone, because if I don't, I'm gonna cry. When I got out of there, I was moved a bunch more. Um, I remember one of my foster homes that I was moved in. It was I'm not going to go through every single one because I was in several places. Believe me, I sit there and took a notebook paper and I tried to make a list of everybody that I had lived with, and some of them I didn't even wasn't even there long enough to learn their names. I learned the dog's name, Peanut, and I've said this before. And I loved that dog. That was Campbell County, Tennessee. Some of them I remember the county. Some of them I remember the dog. So when I'm making this list, I would write, as many as I could remember the names, and as many as I could remember at least the animal's name or what county, if I knew. Because there's sometimes I didn't even know what county I was in. I'm not going to go through every single foster home. I'm just going to go through the most notable foster homes, the most noteworthy group homes with incidents that had happened. So, this family, the Wideners, these people were a special piece of work. See, I'd met these people before when I used to be with the Hatfields that I mentioned in the other video. They were friends. So, if you watched the other video, you know about the Hatfields and what kind of shitheads they were. So, these people were actually kind of worse. I hated these people a whole hell of a lot worse than I did the Hatfields. So anyway, getting back to the Wideners, when my caseworker pulled up to the house, it was a beautiful house, very well kept outside, absolutely pristine. So you learn that that's a warning sign whenever you first pull into a place and everything's pristine and perfect. It's like, oh hell. That's when you're going to be the cleaning crew or the gardening crew or whatever. Or the kids are not allowed outside type thing. Well, this come to be one of the things where the girls were not allowed outside. We weren't allowed to watch the TV. We weren't allowed to use the telephone. We had to get up at a certain time. We had to keep the house in pristine order. I mean, it was mind-numbingly boring there for the majority of the time. Now, like I said, our mornings started really, really early. And one morning, and I've told other people this, they don't believe me, but I don't give a crap. I experienced it firsthand. Okay? One morning they was hollering for us, and there was a mentally handicapped girl that was, in there, one of the foster children, and she was also hard of hearing, and he hollered for us all to get up. I don't know if it was my teenage imagination or if it was actually 3 o'clock in the morning, but I remember looking at the clock and it being 3 o'clock in the morning. The girl didn't get up. The foster father walked to the refrigerator, opened the freezer, got an ice tray out. He made a beeline for her bed. He sat right over top of the girl, pulled up her shirt, and threw all that ice all over her, this mentally handicapped girl, her screaming because he's sitting right on top of her. Her in just a pair of PJ shorts and a little PJ shirt. And he's dumping ice all over this girl to wake her up. And with her, music helped her. And she did have a little Walkman. Well, because she didn't get up on time, she lost her privileges for her Walkman. Oh, it gets better. The time they had us all going around the baseboards, scrubbing their baseboards. All of us girls. There was one girl that was their little favorite of the group. Her last name was Riggs. I'm not going to say what her first name was. But, I remember when I moved in there. I remember when I first moved in there. Um, I didn't have any like good church shoes, so I borrowed one of the other little girls' shoes, and they were too small for my feet, and they were extremely uncomfortable. Well, we were sitting in back in church, so I decided, there's no harm in slipping them off because nobody's seeing, because they were hurting my feet. Well, this little girl, last name of Riggs, told on me. So when we got in the vehicle, I got yelled at for taking my shoes off during church. And I was made to go downstairs and stand in the corner in the basement with the shoes on. I was down there for quite a long time. And I took the shoes off. They caught me with the shoes off again. In the basement. Knowing that they were excruciatingly uncomfortable. So I lost my privileges to come up for supper. They didn't get supper. And they can sit there and say it didn't happen all they want. But I know what happened. I was there the majority of the night, and they caught me with the light on. Because by that time it was dark 30. And I wasn't allowed to come up to go to bed. I lost my bedtime privileges. I had to stay in that freaking basement all night. And I'll never forgive them. And I seen them at church a couple of years ago. And I seen them at church, and I'm just like, no, I'm leaving. And the Hatfields were there too at that church. So I knew that was not a church for me. And it took everything in me, because Miss Widener come up to me smiling, just, oh, yeah. Like a real happy smile. How are you doing? I've been wondering about you all these years. Making a show for all the other church members. And it took everything in me not to call her the biatch that she was. And I should have, but I decided to be classy and just leave. I never ever wanted to expose my son to them idiots. I had my son with me. But at the Wideners, I remember when I come to their house, I didn't have any decent underwear. All my stuff was stained up, and old, and some of them was because a lot of my pretty underwear was stolen, and all I got was granny underwear. And these were stained up. They were making fun of me because of the stains in my underwear. And yes, they were. This was from another girl, not from me. And unfortunately, I had to wash them and wear them because it was the only choice I had if I wanted panties. And they were green. Like, the crotch of them, I guess, where they're being dried, whatever. I don't even want to even imagine, but I had to wash them and wear them. And that's kind of what I was forced to do, because I wasn't getting... Apparently I wasn't getting what I should. As a kid, I mean, you kind of think about it, but then you just like, oh, it's life. I mean, you don't know any different. So. And the Wideners were... The Mrs. Widener and the girl with the last name Riggs, they both were making fun of me because the crotch was green. And I was sitting there trying to tell them, those were somebody else's underwear, but they wouldn't let me speak, and they were laughing and saying, my underwear's got dirty, but they've never been green. Oh, God, I'm going to have to bleach these. And so they ended up with holes in them, too, because the bleach ate them up, and because they were already old in the first place. Lovely place. And then I remember going to. I'm not telling these in order, okay? I'm just telling them as they come to my mind. And I remember going to Sandy and Trampus Peck's house. Yeah, I called their names. Whatever. Um, because it wasn't a well, I'm lying. It kind of sucked if you got in trouble. If you didn't get in trouble, yes, it was boring. Yes, it was quiet. Um, well, until they found out about a visitor we had had at one of the group homes, and let's just go ahead and talk about them, and then I'll get to that story in a moment. But I remember first thing in the morning we were only allowed. They had this little bitty mug, and we was only allowed to have that much cereal in the morning from about that mug, and that's all we had until dinner time, most of the time there. And I was there with a foster sister and two foster brothers. I was sharing a bed with one of my foster sisters because they didn't have enough rooms, so we shared a bed. And when you got in trouble there, they was digging out from behind their trailer trying to widen it up so they could be able to put a porch out there. But there was a great big old ditch back there that if you got in trouble, they gave you a mattock and a shovel, and you had to dig on this hill to make it wider for them. And you could be out there all day long working on it as a punishment. Now, they had found out in one of the group homes there was a guy named Gary Wires had visited us in one of the group homes before I moved in with them, with the Pegs. And at the group home, this guy Gary Wires, he was a person that was coming to talk to us about AIDS, HIV, and about his life. And I'd actually sat on the same couch as him. I made the mistake one night, and I was fast forward back to the Peck's house. Now listen, I think it was just more they were uneducated. I don't think they were trying to be mean. I just think they were extremely uneducated about the transmission of HIV, that you can't just hug or touch someone to get HIV. That it has to be blood to blood or bodily fluid to bodily fluid, transfusion, whatever. They didn't understand mode of transmission of it, apparently. So I'm not going to hate on them for being ignorant. And just because I call them ignorant, it doesn't mean they're stupid. It just means they come from the generation and an area where that wasn't regular common knowledge. So they found out that I'd sat on the same couch as this guy. Next thing you know, I had a pallet on the floor. I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch. Everything of mine was always bleached. Every time I used the toilet, it was always bleached, like they thought they was going to get it. Again, I'm not hating on them for being ignorant of mode of transmission. As a kid, I was just like, I hated them. And I took it personal. I did. I took it so personal. But now that I'm older and I understand not everybody is educated, I get it. I totally get it. But they wouldn't let me sleep in the bed. They wouldn't let me sit on their couches. They gave me a pillow and blankets, and then they kept them by themselves stuck over behind the couch. And not long after that, I ended up moving out of their house. Now, I ended up moving in. What was the name of that woman? Golly, I can't. Oh, Edna McAfee and her little girl. Now, she had an adorable little girl, but she adopted that little girl. She was cute, but she was a brat. She was such a brat. Of course, by that time I was developing a firm hatred for smaller children, so I was polite. I was polite. But yeah, I was developing a hatred for children at that time. So anyway, this little girl, all she wanted was a big sister. I understand it, but at the time I didn't get it. And she'd always want to hang. I called her to stick up my butt because that's what she was. Anywhere I was, outside, inside, upstairs, downstairs, it didn't matter. I couldn't get a break. I was the constant babysitter for her. I mean, not to say we didn't have good times, because there was a little creek out front, and me and her, I'd get her helping me take mud and build up a little natural dam in the little creek just to watch the water spill over. And there was one time that we was in her yard, and there was a baby cow. It apparently got away from somebody, and we were petting the baby cow. We just thought it was the coolest thing, because I don't have much experience with farm animals, so I didn't realize this baby was still suckling mama. Needed its mama, so I wasn't worried. I was just petting it and loving it. And it got her fist, and she had her fist in its mouth, and it was suckling her fist and drooling and everything. And these guys drove by, and they were screaming, "You can have it!" And us two kids, we were sitting there. So we went and told Miss Edna, and so they returned that. But I remember Miss Edna, she was racist. My sister was talking about visiting me from college. She was in college at the time. And she was talking about, having somebody bring her because she didn't drive at the time. Miss Edna, she used the N word. I to this day still hate the N word. But she said, "Your sister better not bring any of them N words to my house. I won't let her in." And she said all kinds of god awful stuff. And I'm just like, they're Japanese. Even worse, those slanty-eyed Japs. Blah blah blah. And I'm just like, really, lady? I don't believe in that stuff, and I never have really believed in racism ever. And this lady was racist as fuck. And so anyway, since they were Japanese or they were a different race, Miss Edna would not allow my sister to come visit me on her farm. So it's like, and that was the most noteworthy from that place. And then there was another place. I was up in Campbell County, and these people, I don't remember their name. I remember the dog Peanut, but I don't remember their name. I just remember Campbell County. And I remember I was on a shitstorm of meds there. And, you take somebody that's already been traumatized and on a shit ton of meds, and has PTSD and a whole host of other trust issues and stuff. And you put them in with I was just settling in. The room I was in was really, really, really nice. Actually, the bed was comfortable. The blankets were soft, and it was just like beautifully, beautifully set up. It could have been plucked right out of a magazine. Until she came in. She goes, "Well, don't get scared, but the TV turns on and off by itself sometimes." I'm like, "Well, okay." I was thinking to myself, probably a short. She goes, "But there's also been things thrown around the room. There's demons in this room." That's what she said. Right hand of God. Right hand of God. She tells me there was demons in that room. And at nighttime, at bedtime, I closed the door, but then I heard a lock. It was one of them old houses that had this little skeleton key thingy. So I heard it locking, so I went over and tried the door, and it was locked. I'm like, oh, shit. What if I need to pee? So I was scanning the room for like jars and stuff, because I'm one of them that has to get up and go pee in the middle of the night. Nobody told me that in the middle of the night there's a train that comes through every single solitary night. So here I am with my PTSD self locked in a room in a strange place, already just not well. Not well to say the least. That's putting it gentle. And this train comes comes chugging through, and I screamed bloody murder. I was screaming and hollering. I was scared to death. And see, at that time, I was having flashbacks from some really bad stuff that had happened between times that I was in places. Um, Nobody ever opened the door. Nobody ever checked on me. In the morning, she opened the door. We come down for breakfast. Absolutely beautifully set dining room table full of breakfast stuff, gravy and toast cut in little triangles, and bacon and biscuits and eggs, all the good stuff, juice. You would never know what kind of warpos these people were, you know. But anyway, there was one girl there that got special treatment. She had a nice room. She had the canopy bed. She had it made in shade. I don't know if she was one of their natural children or one of the foster children, but I was jealous. So I took her conditioner, and I took some of the conditioner out, and I put straight air in that conditioner bottle. And little gals, they used to use a bottle of water to spray their hair to get it to go up, and then they would spray it with hairspray. And in the water bottle, I took all the water out and I poured straight bleach in there because I was jealous. And now listen, my brain was not in the right place because I was not in my right mind because of how many medications I was on. So, you can't help it. And yes, I knew better. But I did it. But thankfully, I got removed not long after that and moved to another place. I couldn't stand that being locked up anymore in that bedroom at night. And to tell you the truth, a lot of them places, like I mentioned in the first video, the D&E Center and Peninsula, and to some degree Blount County Children's Home, in the evening time you always had to ask to go to the bathroom and stuff. Being a lockup sucked. So anyway, I remember another time I moved in with Miss Judy Payne. This was after she had done said that I did all this other crap, said I beat her up and everything. She took me back as a foster kid. What does that tell you? But I was on extreme cleaning duty. I mean, I was constantly having to clean and vacuum and swipe dust. And all of us foster kids was pretty much clean in detail. And we'd have to vacuum each step one by one with a little bitty vacuum cleaner. And we didn't have to worry about our little animals because her maintenance man, Archie, always took care of that stuff. Help watch her daycare children. Like I said before in another video, yeah, you people that were paying Miss Judy Payne to watch your children, she may have been supervising, but as foster kids, even the ones with mental health problems and disabilities, were watching your children. And to those of you who use the state to pay for your daycare, the state was paying her, but we were doing the work. Now, she would cook, and she made sure they ate and stuff. But as far as the supervision, like them outside, that was all us foster kids that watched them. So, hopefully nothing screwed up happened to your children. That never happened with me. I hated children, but I was good to the kids. But there was a couple of the girls I was questionable about. But Lord, I remember that place now. Okay, this is kind of appropriate because Halloween's coming up. This woman had a Ouija board downstairs. And us kids, we decided to play it one night. And I won't say the name of what came up across there, but I remember being scared to death because at that time I had a basement room. Had a big old beautiful water bed, comfortable and everything. Um, but I'll tell you a little ghost story. After using that dark flame thing, I was in bed one night, and water bed where you can feel when somebody sits down on the water bed. I felt that. I felt like somebody sat down on a water bed, and I was literally paralyzed. I don't know. They talk about sleep paralysis. However you're supposed to say it. You know what I'm talking about. Paralysis. Yes, there we go. I'll say it right here in a minute. Um, Maybe it was that. I don't know. All I know is it scared the bejesus out of me. I was trying to hoot, trying to holler, and trying to move, but I couldn't move. I couldn't even move my arms or nothing, and I felt like something sat on the bed. And I felt the bed move. Water beds do that. And the next thing you know, when I was able to finally move, I jumped up and grabbed the pull string, turned the light on, and there was nothing there but sitting on top of the washing machine right across from where you could see from my bedroom because there wasn't any wall in between, just boards. That Ouija board sitting right out on top of that washing machine with the planchard sitting right on top of it. It wasn't there when I went to bed. And there was nobody else downstairs. Now, man, ain't that some stuff? That's why I'm terrified of those to this day. But she would let us play with Ouija boards and stuff in that house. Um, there was another group home that I was at, and I won't mention names. I don't even know if they're still open or not. I'm hoping not. I would figure not. There was this girl with the last name of Guffey. She was one of my roommates. And she, they would consider her mentally handicapped. And she was laying in bed, and there was one of the staff members who hated white girls. That's the only way I can say it, because she did. She would call us crackers all the time, or honkies, and say god awful stuff. She was the night staff member, and she was there in the morning to get us up to go to school. She came to mine and Sonia's room, and she grabbed Sonia by her ankles and drug her out of bed right from a dead sleep. And she was absolutely terrible. And then one day, there was a girl, what was her name? I can't remember the little girl's name, but I know that there was something being said back and forth, and nothing to the degree what this woman's reaction was. It was not okay. The staff member grabbed this girl by her arms. Literally, and whoever done this chick's manicure, they did a good job because the fingernails was able to dig into this little girl's arm and make her bleed as she manhandled that girl. And in another place, I don't know if you've ever heard a bone break or how it sounds when it breaks, but there was another girl being restrained, and they're not supposed to do that. But they restrained her, and they had turned her arm a certain way, and heard her scream in pain, "You're hurting me, you're hurting me." Next thing you know, you hear something snap. And she screamed like she was dying. So many of these places, man. And being moved from place to place to place to place was not fun either. I fell so behind in my grades in school because of the fact of the matter is I was moved around from place to place to place, and I was living in screwed up situations. There was one place that I actually was doing pretty good, and I actually got put, even though I was a freshman, I got put in a senior history class, and they were selling chocolate bars, and they said, well, the proceeds from the sale of these chocolate bars go to the group home. And they were talking about the group home I was in. And so I said, oh, because see, I didn't know about the reputation the group home had. I had no clue whatsoever about the reputation the group home had. And I said, oh, I'm from there. Next thing you know, I'm getting picked on, getting stabbed with pencils and stuff. I found out later that the group home had the reputation for the girls being whores because of one girl. And I'm going to call her out. Her name was Tammy, and she was given oral. It's the nicest way to say it. Given oral in the school parking lot, and then ended up ruining the reputation of all the group home girls because of it. And so I was picked on so hard that I eventually had to be. I was removed from the honors history class and put in some sort of weird classroom. We didn't really do much in there. And then I went from there to move to a place called Lakeway Academy. Because I was being picked on so bad, and I was considered because the teacher of the history class, I told her I was being stabbed with a pencil, and she called me a tattletale. I'm just like, really? For being stabbed with a pencil, I'm a tattletale. Alright, whatever. So, I got removed from the honors history, and then I ended up getting put in this weird classroom that was just like 2 or 3 students in there, and it's just like nothing. And then got moved to Lakeway Academy, and I really liked Lakeway Academy. There was a Mr. Clay, I think was his name, and Miss Rachel. God, I loved her. I absolutely adored her because she liked doing the arts and crafts, and whenever I get done with my schoolwork early, she let me do arts and crafts. She would give me markers, and we had them neat little markers that when you drew on it with one color, and then you took the clear marker and went over it, and it would change the color of the stuff. And that I really enjoyed that with her. And they had like a level system there, and I would constantly be moved back to the first level because I was constantly doing stupid crap. Yeah, that's me. I don't always think before I act, and when I get mad, when I got mad, well, say back then, when I got mad, I'd lose my temper, and yeah, I constantly stayed on a low level till uh I want to say it took me a couple of months, but I finally got up to one of the higher levels. And then I started picking on this one boy named Jeremy that was nitpicking everything I did because he got on a lower level than me. So I decided to nitpick everything he did and kept him in trouble. Yeah. Real nice, right? So anyway, I'm probably going to end this video right here. So, we're going to talk a little bit more next week. Not next week. In the next video, excuse me, when I do chapter 3 of my big fat redneckified life, I'm going to be venturing into my young adulthood and my drug abuse. And maybe we'll touch on some of my older adult stuff. But we're going to talk about whenever I got out of foster care, got put back in mama's house, when I was homeless. Like at one point in time, I lived in a room full of funeral flowers, sleeping on the floor. My nightlight looked like it was a big old palm tree, lit up palm tree. But and and I might even get into the Christmas incident that year when me and my friend both wore plastic leprechaun hats, had two fog machines going, butt naked, in a flower shop in the middle of town. Big ginormous windows where you could see in the windows. Drugs were involved. And I'm really glad I don't live that life anymore, but we'll get into that next time. Anyway, Queen Rose out. Love each other, darlings. Remember to like and subscribe. Bye.